Okay, good morning. I am Will Berry, Vice Chairman of the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority and acting chair for today's meeting. This meeting is being conducted in compliance with the notice and public posting provisions of the Oklahoma Open Meeting Act. While this meeting is open and public, there will be no public comments, as is OTA's longstanding historical practice. This meeting is an in-person meeting open to the public for observation and is also being live streamed and recorded for remote viewing. The time is 10:04, and I'm calling the October 8, 2024 regular meeting of the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority to order. Charity, please call roll.
Mr. Will Berry.
Here.
Mr. Todd Cone.
Here.
Mr. Gene Love.
Here.
Mr. John Titsworth.
Here.
Ms. Dana Weber.
Here.
And Mr. John Jones. We have a quorum.
Our first item is some recognitions and other awards. I think Major Val.
Good morning. Thank you for letting us take this opportunity to recognize one of our troopers, Seth Hudson. If you'd come up, and Captain Yelton. Just stand right out in the front and face the crowd at attention. Perfect. He's going to try to hide behind here like I am. Okay, would want to take the opportunity to discuss what Seth Hudson has done on our turnpike system just this year, and I'm already going to have to make one adjustment to the very first item. I'm just going to share with you some of his work or efforts for this year alone. He has seized, says 143,000 cash, but yesterday he stopped a subject and recovered 120,000 in cash, so that's already changed. He has seized 317 pounds of marijuana, 17.8 pounds of methamphetamine, 10 pounds of mushrooms, 5 pounds of cocaine. He's recovered 5,160 articles of stolen property, 51 bottles of promethazine, if I said that right, 5 firearms, and he's made 5 DUI arrests. I'm going to take one more notice to an effort that he made on September 19th. In conjunction with Newton County SO out of Missouri, he made a traffic stop on an assault and kidnapping suspect that had crossed into the Oklahoma on the Will Rogers Turnpike. Hudson stopped the suspect near Afton and conducted a felony stop and safely placed the suspect into custody without incident. The passenger, a female, had been kidnapped and stabbed by the suspect, and Trooper Hudson got her safely transported to the hospital. His continuous efforts are ensuring the turnpikes in Oklahoma are kept safe. He is a credit to our patrol and the state of Oklahoma with his dedicated service and is to be commended for his actions. So, thank you. Seth, it's not over.
That's great. On behalf of the board, I'm sure that I speak for all of us. Thank you so much for your service to your work. The next item is the approval of the minutes for the special meeting of the September 23rd, 2024 meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Please vote electronically. All the votes are in, and the minutes have been approved. Our first items for business and discussion are from the Budget Committee. Mr. Cohn?
Mr. Chairman, with your approval, item 1223, Ms. Wendy Smith. And Ms. Smith, even before you get started, you and your staff do such a phenomenal job. This budget is really impressive, and your thoroughness and the attention to detail is very admirable.
Thank you. I will have a paragraph about that. So, good morning, Vice Chairman Barry, members of the Authority, Director E. Kelly. So, thank you for saying that, but I wanted to start out by thanking Jonna Grant, she's in the red right there, for all her work on the 2025 preliminary annual budget. With reduced staff, which is literally from 2 to 1, she generated this document after working with all of the division managers to help them prepare their budgets and ensuring that the divisions would obtain funds that would keep us at the high quality of services that OTA provides. So I couldn't be more proud of her work, and you should be really proud of yourself. And she's just been literally a godsend. I don't know what I would have done without her this year. So with that, I am happy to present the 2025 preliminary operating and maintenance budget for your consideration. This budget does ensure that we can continue to operate the facilities both safely and efficiently. This year's budget comes in at $156.3 million, but that is only an increase of just under $400,000 and results in a 0.26% increase over 2024's O&M budget. The significant categories include the following. The Oklahoma Highway Patrol is set to graduate its newest cadets, and the Authority is excited to receive 8 much-needed troopers to its system. As you can see, like on what happened this morning, it's always good to have as many troopers as we can. These additional troopers will provide patrolling and directing movement of traffic, assisting citizens of the motoring public, along with cooperating with other law enforcement officers and public officials. This budget increase for this part is just over $835,000. And speaking of safety, the Authority is also working diligently to complete its conversion of its toll roads to cashless. As of today, only the Will Rogers Turnpike and one small segment of the Indian Nation Turnpike has yet to be converted, but both roads will be totally converted by 12/31 of '24. And although cash seems to be becoming more and more obsolete with entities like the Will Rogers Airport going completely cashless, as well as the Paycom Center that hosts both the Thunder and various concert events, an even better reason to go cashless is simply that, it's safer. Converting to cashless tolling creates a much safer environment for the Authority patrons. Existing cash toll plazas on the Turnpike network represented a primary safety concern by having to exit from the main line, sit there to actually pay cash, and then re-entry onto the main line. So we've basically gotten rid of any of those safety issues, and we'll have all of them completely converted by 12/31. That eliminates all the points of conflict, and it doesn't cause patron staff to sit there looking for change while they're trying to drive in live traffic. And along with reconfiguring those current toll plazas for safety, a new cashless tolling system eliminates the need to spend expensive capital dollars on traditional toll plaza, and that actually gives us more money to actually put back into the road. And as we eliminate those future cash expenditures and operating costs related to the more unsafe manual toll collection that we used to have, we are also increasing our O&M for those costs associated with cashless tolling. Some of those increases include higher postage, a higher volume of license plate lookup, which is actually called manual image review, as well as bank service charges having increased as more and more customers are paying with credit cards. OTA also continues to work with its interoperability partners, so we do have some fees that go up in conjunction with that, but we also have fees coming to us in miscellaneous income for that same thing with all of our interoperable partners. We like to keep it as convenient as possible out there, so if somebody already has a tag, they can just move on through our system as well. With the streamlining of the Authority's tolling model, even with some of those increased expenses related to plate pay, I should point out that the Authority saved dollars of approximately $9.5 million as compared to 2024. So to complete the explanation of increases to the O&M budget, we can't avoid talking about inflation. As you are all aware, although inflation has improved over the last year, it can't be fully eliminated. With continuing unprecedented low unemployment, Attracting qualified applicants and retaining good employees is imperative for the authority, and to that end, the authority did do a market adjustment to fill certain job classifications. The authority also has seen increases in utilities. As we know, the U.S. Postal Service also raised its postage rates. Road maintenance costs continue to go up, including asphalt, concrete, drainage and culvert costs, not to mention mowing and sweeping contracts that are competitively bid. This, plus the increased vehicle and equipment repairs that the Highway Patrol and the maintenance budget have sustained due to supply chain disruption, all increased the budget by about $2.7 million. And finally, due to the increase in the use of much-needed software subscriptions to keep the authority functioning efficiently, better technology for our maintenance field workers, increased positions related to the Access program, and increased safety supplies, OTA has also seen an increase of about another 6.3. That concludes the overview. All of those increases and decreases actually come out to about $398,000 of an increase to the budget for 2025. And I'll take any questions. I know I talked fast. I really try to work on that, but.
Had a lot to say. Any questions?
I just have a comment. I just think it's important for everyone to understand that you guys don't just take last year's budget and do ups and downs. You really do a zero-based budgeting every year, so that makes what you have done even more impressive, so thank you.
Absolutely, and that is something that Jonna does with every single one of the division managers, and we like to make sure, because sometimes, you know, they're just trying to do their job, and we just kind of need to elicit out of them, hey, what do you think you might need? She does a great job in that. Any other questions?
Any other questions or comments?
I think we just need to applaud the entire team for doing a great
You
job.
all. Thank you. Thanks.
Well, if there are no more comments or questions, Mr. Chairman, I would move for adoption of the proposed preliminary annual budget for 2025 as presented by Ms. Smith.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
We have a second. Thank you, Mrs. Weber. Please vote electronically. Voting has ended, and item 223 has been approved.
Mr. Chairman, the next item is 2/12/24. Mr. Jordan Purdue.
Good morning. This budget is a lot smaller than our system budget. As a quick refresh, I would like to point out that, you know, the Gilcrease is a non-system project and does not benefit from the cross-pledging of the system. So as part of that, it has its own budget procedures as negotiated with US DOT and the Build America Bureau. The system general fund will actually upfront cover the costs of the O&M for the Gilcrease, and then on a 6-month look back, the Gilcrease will reimburse the system on the actual expenses spent on the Gilcrease in this budget. So just get that out of the way before I get into the budget. So the preliminary budget is for $1.3 million, and that is an increase of $168,000 from the '24 budget, and the vast majority of that is for increase in toll collection costs because of the increase in transactions. So it's really a good thing that it's going up. Really, that's kind of it. I'm happy to get into any detailed questions you might have about the budget, but
Any questions or comments? I'm ready for you to double this budget when you open the North Gilcrease.
that's not my call. I think that you got to talk to these guys over here. But we're ready to negotiate with Tiffy on that, so.
Well, if there's no other questions or comments, Mr. Chairman, I would move for approval of the preliminary annual budget for the Gilcrease Turnpike, item 1224 as presented.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
Thank you, Mrs. Weber. Please vote electronically. Voting is in, and item 1224 has passed.
Mr. Chairman, the next item is 1225, Patrice Williams. Good morning, Ms. Williams.
Good morning. Good morning, Vice Chairman, members of the board. I come to you to submit for consideration and approval the request to authorize the director to negotiate and execute the contract with Oklahoma Correctional Industries, who will provide image review services. This agreement is to include a 5-year term commencing January 2025. OTA will compensate OCI for review services at the rate of 5.26 cents per record with a annual CPI review. I am here to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions or comments? If not, Mr. Chairman, I would move for approval of item 1225 as presented.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
Thank you, Mrs. Weber. Please vote electronically. Voting is ended, and item 1225 has passed.
Mr. Chairman, my final item, 1226, Micah Gardner. Good morning, Ms. Gardner.
Good morning, Mr. Berry, members of the authority. Item number 1226 is the payment register prepared by the Comptroller Division. This includes all payments made to OTA during the month of August 2024. The staff has reviewed this and recommends this item for approval.
Any questions or comments? If there are none, Mr. Chairman, I would move for approval of item 1226 as presented.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
Thank you, Mrs. Weber. Please vote electronically. Voting has ended, and item 1226 has passed. Next item on the agenda is from the Engineering and Construction Committee. Mr. Love.
Mr. Chairman, the first item is item 1227. There are 6 items on here that are change orders in excess of $100,000, and Jeff Gardner will present those. And as he presents them, I'll ask him to go through all of those and before we vote. And then if you have any questions, just stop him to ask your questions. Jeff.
Thank you. Good morning, Vice Chairman and members of the board. Presented for consideration of the authority is a request that the following change orders be approved. Of these change orders, 3 adds new items to compensate the contractor for additional work, and 4 overrun existing pay items due to site requirements. This item has been reviewed by staff and is recommended for approval. And as always, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions?
So I do have a couple of questions. So when the engineers designed this, and then they actually established the quantities that the contractors bid, correct?
Yes.
So basically, the contractors only bid the unit price.
That's right.
Okay.
And the quantity and the plans.
Right, so you have the bid, you take the low and best bidder, for instance, Manhattan Road and Bridge. And there's this change order for the solid slab sodding, and it's a quantity change. And so we're stuck with their unit price, right? Because that was already established when we signed up for them. So, but the quantity, I'm just looking at it, it seems like a big quantity. So how is that justified?
So if they overrun the quantity by more than 25%, we negotiate a price decrease on that item for the overage amount above that. So we do have an avenue to change the bid price on a major overrun. But on a minor overrun, we overrun at the bid price.
But based on the quantities, like how did we miss the quantity by a lot, by 97,000 square yards, for instance? Where does that go back into, discussion with the engineers from the beginning?
Yeah, that's something I've been working on with our engineering group too, to make sure that the neat line sod, it's really easy to draw neat lines on plans for sod, and that's not how it's built. There's some areas too, specifically on the Cimarron project is the one that we had a big sod overrun on. The infields at US 177 and State Highway 99 were not properly accounted for in the plans. So there's things like that we need to be better at catching early on in the design phase, and definitely something we're focusing on.
And then one other comment, which is fine, and I think that's part of our QC, or needs to be QC and on the front end of it. But as I look at, so 3 of these, and again, I'm only saying sod because it's easy and everybody understands it. It's grass, right? I mean, you cut it, you haul it, you lay it. But I'm only comparing, because as you go through some of this stuff, you got one contractor that bid $6 a yard. You got one that has, $3 a yard, and then you got one that's like $1.88. Why is there such a fluctuation outside of one came from Coweta and one came from Ponca City? Whatever.
Right. The biggest driver, and that's the bid quantity. The larger the quantity they're bidding on, the lower cost per unit that it's going to be. that's number one, the biggest driver in the bid price, and also location of the project is huge. Getting sod to Antlers is generally gonna be a
Yeah.
lot more expensive than
Which is-
taking it to
it's-
Wellston.
Right.
So there's a lot of things at play there, but those are probably the two biggest drivers in what's
Okay.
bid.
That's all I had.
Okay, any other questions? If there are no other questions, I'd vote for approval for this particular item as presented.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
Thank you, Mrs. Weber. Please vote electronically.
The next item is item 1228.
Hang on one sec, Mr. Love. Voting has ended and item 1227 has passed.
The next item is 1228. Jeff?
So item 1228, this item is for selection of the construction management contract for JKT 30705A, which is a pavement widening project between Eastern and I-35 and the John Kilpatrick Turnpike to Freeson Nichols with a not-to-exceed amount of $1,304,246.50. This amounts to roughly 6.7% of the engineer's estimate of construction. This item has been reviewed by staff and is recommended for approval.
Any questions?
Yeah, I got a question. So, also, I was talking to LaDan about this earlier. So, Poe and Garver are kind of our CM, our overall CM, and so they're our QC for these other smaller companies. Is that how that works?
Not on the construction
Not on
side.
the- Okay.
We don't have a overall CM for construction. We solicit that on a project basis right now for the Access program.
Okay.
My plan is next year to take an on-demand contract similar to what you see on the capital plan side, where we do it on a task order basis. But for these projects in particular, these first few Access projects, they're selected on a project-by-project basis.
So then you and LaDan are the QC for these particular projects? I mean, as far as just overlooking the drawings and making sure that before they go out to bid?
Yeah, that's a big group of us that do that.
Okay.
So on the Access side, overlooking the design drawings, we have obviously Poe
Okay,
as our
that's what I was
program
talking about.
manager.
They're the overall QC looking over
Yes.
these guys'
Yeah, my-
drawings. Okay.
I apologize, I thought you were talking about the construction manager.
No,
Yeah,
just-
yeah,
The front end stuff,
yes.
because that's where we catch everything.
And we also do an in-house review of all those as well.
Okay, awesome.
Any other questions? The staff has reviewed this item, and I'd make a motion for approval as presented.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
Thank you, Mrs. Weber. Please vote electronically. Voting has ended and item 228 has passed.
The next item is item 1229. Jeff?
1229. So this item is for the selection of the construction management contract for TMC 128B, which is the Stroud Service Plaza Modernization and Turner Turnpike Realignment Project, to CEC with a not-to-exceed amount of $1,910,512.01. This amounts to 4.9% of the awarded construction contract. This item has been reviewed by staff and is recommended for approval.
Any questions? If there are no questions, the staff has reviewed this item, and I'd make a motion for approval.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
Thank you, Mrs. Weber. Please vote electronically.
The next item is item 1230.
Hang on a sec.
Beg your
Sorry
pardon?
about that. Uh-oh. I don't think my computer's working. I think we might have a,
Mr. Combs?
Yes.
Mr. Love?
Yes.
Mr. Kitchler?
Yeah.
Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Mr. Berry?
yes. So now it just popped up, so. Item,
Somebody hadn't voted.
okay. All right, so item 1229 has passed.
Okay, the next item is item 1230. Dan Nelson.
Good morning, Vice Chairman Barry, members of the authority, Director E. Kelly. Submitted for consideration of the authority is a request for the following item to be approved. The summary of the item is as follows. This is for SP 65. This is the contract modification number 3 for the program management contract for the Access Oklahoma Bond Program. The consultant is Poe and Associates for a not-to-exceed amount of $13,750,000. This contract modification is for the program management services of the Access Oklahoma Long Range Turnpike Improvement and Expansion Program. This program management services include providing corridor management of all aspects of the project delivery in each Access Oklahoma described corridor, as well as additional access points on the existing turnpikes. Additional services include, but are not limited to, alignment studies, oversight, and coordination of all design activities, environmental studies and permitting, program cost and schedule controls, GIS data and mapping, public involvement in meetings, and other services as directed by the OTA. This contract, as modified, is for services anticipated through calendar year 2025 and may be renewed annually over the life of the Access Oklahoma Bond Program. This contract is hourly not to exceed. The amount due under this contract modification number 3 shall not exceed $13,750,000. The total revised contract amount shall not exceed $27,791,654. Staff has reviewed this item and we recommend approval. I want to elaborate a little bit more on this item. This is a 66% increase from when we asked for the original contract item in January 2023. As we do know, from January 2023 to the end of July of 2023, we were on that pause, so we had very minimal efforts ongoing. As we picked back up in August of 23, once we got the validation from the Supreme Court, we started very hot and heavy back on the design and environmental studies on this item. So you will see that ramping up. Once we pass this con mod, we will stabilize and we will see a better percentage increase over time or decrease. So, and I want to move forward with talking about all the anticipated scheduled work for 2025 because we are very excited about all of that. There's a lot of design work that is ongoing, a lot of environmental studies. We have 7 active corridors that will be ongoing in 2025. That includes the Will Rogers, Turner, Creek, to name a few. We have 45 design segments, which results in 127 construction projects. We have 130 planned submittals, 6 to 7 construction lettings, and 57 environmental studies. So there's a lot of front-end investments on this program that we are seeing now, and once we push that over into the construction world with Jeff, we will see less of that in the future. So I will be happy to answer any questions on this item.
Okay, any questions? If there are no questions, I'd vote for approval as presented.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
Thank you, Mrs. Weber. Please vote electronically. Voting has ended, and item 1230 has been approved.
The next item on the engineering and construction agenda is item 1231. Mr. Butler.
Good morning, Mr. Love, board members. Good to see everyone here this morning. Item 1231, this is a construction contract award. This is for INMC 73. This is rehabilitation of Bridge 91.02 at milepost 13.35 over US 271 near Antlers, and this is in Pushmataha County. Project includes replacement of deck, beams, parapets, approach slabs, bearings, shoulders, guardrails, pier caps, and concrete repairs to the existing abutments and columns. Had 6 great bids on the project. The low bid was L&N Bridge Company in the amount of $3,740,465.44, which is about 14.1% below the engineer's estimate. This is L&N's first project with us. We checked with ODOT, and they've successfully been awarded and completed 14 projects since 2020. So we're excited to hopefully get a new contractor in here working on OTA projects. Staff scrutinized the bid. We recommend approval. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? We sure like to see these competitive bids.
That's right.
It's all good. I'll make a motion for approval as presented.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
Thank you, Mrs. Weber. Please vote electronically.
The next item on the...
Voting,
I'm
sorry.
Go ahead.
Voting has ended, and item 1231 has been approved.
I'll try not to
It's hard.
preempt you anymore, Will.
It's electronic thing.
Yeah. The next item on the agenda is item 1232, Mr. Gore.
Good morning, Vice Chair. Sorry, been a little while since I've been up here.
Glad you're feeling better.
Thank you. Today, I bring 1232. It's an on-demand right-of-way service contract mod for the Access Bond Program. Submitted for consideration and authority, request the following items to be approved and disapproved. Summary of items to follow. These contract modifications are for additional on-demand right-of-way services for the Access Oklahoma Long Range Turnpike Improvement and Expansion Program. Each on-demand consultant service agreement is a per parcel not to exceed contract to provide right-of-way services as directed by the OTA. This contract, as modified, are services anticipated through the calendar year 2026 and may be modified further as necessary over the life of the Access Bond Program. The aggregate not to exceed amount for the respective contract modification is $8.3 million. Each subsequent contract as modified shall not exceed $2 million. The total revised aggregate not to exceed amount is $10 million for all 5 contracts. These contracts commonly come up to a total of 22 task orders anticipated, which equates to about, estimated off some preliminary, about 350 parcels. Of those parcels, 285 will be assigned through these, and we have additional 3 contractors under contract to acquire properties as well through the program. And we are anticipating about 506 parcels based off summary design for the program under design right now. So this is going to allow us to get to work on acquiring and securing the properties needed for all the design work that LaDan and the rest of the team has going. And landowners are ready for us to get and approach them and do that, and that's why we're excited to be able to finally get close to do that.
Okay, any questions? If there are no questions, I'll make a motion for approval as presented.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
Thank you, Mrs. Weber. Please vote electronically. Voting has ended, and item 1232 has been approved.
It's good to see you.
Yeah, for sure. The next item on the agenda is 1233. Todd?
Yes, the next item is utility management contract modification for the Access Bond Program. Submitted for the consideration of authority is a request that the following items be approved, disapproved, a summary of the items below, and this is for SP 67 team design, not to exceed $3.5 million. The contract modifications is utility management services for the Access Oklahoma Long Range Turnpike Improvement and Expansion Program, utility management services that include but not limited to the oversight, management, coordination, and other services directed by the OTA. This contract modification is for service anticipated through the calendar year 2026 and may be modified further as necessary over the life of the program. The contract does not exceed the amount under this contract mod number 2 shall, as stated, $3.5 million with a total revised contract not to exceed $7 million. And as this contract has been passed is to help relocate and manage all the utility relocations for the program.
Okay, any questions? If there are no questions, I'd make a motion for approval.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
Thank you, Mrs. Weber. Please vote electronically. Voting has ended, and item 1233 is passed.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is 1234. Yours again, Todd.
Yeah, this will be my last one. The Turner Turnpike Service Plaza lease extension for the Stroud Service Plaza. Submitted for the approval is authorized, is the authority, an item to authorize the director to approve the following lease extension. Authorize the director to approve the lease agreement extension between Oklahoma Turnpike Authority and Love's Travel Stop at the Stroud Service Plaza. Also with McDonald's on the Service Travel Plaza. This lease extension is the original currently active lease for the Stroud that's with McDonald's and Love's until the new Service Plaza that now, it's been last month and this month, started to allow us to construct and get going. Once the building is built by McDonald's and Love's and then it comes into service, there's already in standby waiting lease agreement that would go in effect. Until that time, the old one is keeping it, renewing it. We're hoping this extension will be long enough for that to be built, and hopefully this should be the last extension we need.
Okay, any questions? Make a motion for approval as presented.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
Thank you, Mrs. Weber. Please vote electronically. Voting has ended and item 1234 has passed. And that concludes our engineering and construction report. The next item are the board reports. The Highway Patrol report, Major Val. Welcome back.
Board members, Director E. Kelly, this is a report for our July activity. For the month of July, the Turnpike troopers made just under 3,000 violator contacts, assisted in 691 motorist assists, and investigated 120 motor vehicle collisions. Troopers worked 928 shifts, averaging just under 200 miles per shift, for a total of 184,000 miles driven. There was 2 fatalities in the month of July. One was a pedestrian, and the other was a driver that had departed the roadway for an unknown reason. There were 13 criminal interdictions, and the rest of our special enforcement information has been provided to you. Do you have any questions?
That's actually the August report, right?
This is the July. I
Is it
did
July?
August last month, so I got in trouble and
okay.
had to
All right,
correct.
gotcha. Gotcha.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
The next report is our engineering report. Mr. Sparks.
Good morning, Vice Chairman Berry, members of the authority, Director E. Kelly. Concerning the trust requirements, we have submitted the 2024 inspection data for the final report to OTA staff, and within that is our recommendations for any updates to the 5-year capital plan and looking at any that should be accelerated. Kind of within the data, I wanted to give you a little summary here. I looked at some of the comparisons over the last 10 years on bridges and pavements, and since 2014, the 0 to 9 rating that we do on bridges, Turnpike over, and that's the nearly 350 Turnpike traffic carrying bridges that are span bridges. So there's about 350 of those on the system. Our decks have increased from a 7.0 to a 7.2. The superstructure ratings have increased from 7.5 to a 7.6, and the substructures have increased from a 7.0 to a 7.2. So and I'll get into the reinvestment here in a little bit, but we're seeing good results on the assets that are certainly aging. A lot of high percentage were built, before 1975. So pavements kind of the same. Let me back up just a second. There was one bridge that had a deck rating of a 4, which puts it in the structurally deficient. So of all the bridges on the system, we have one that is categorized as structurally deficient, but happy to report that Indian Nation Bridge is part of contract INMC 68, and it's in construction for about a month. And I think Jeff was telling me today that traffic's moved over to one side, and one side of the deck is in demolition. So seeing that one on, and it will get removed off the list upon completion of the construction. Same time period, the Turnpike pavements, we've seen an increase from our pavement condition index from about an 84 to an 87. And all of these, whether bridges or pavements, are in the industry accepted good category. So the reinvestment is paying off. So, and did want to highlight, with your approval of the preliminary budget today, the things that we track, the level of reinvestment, and will continue to allow these ratings to operate in those categories. The 2025 through 2029 totals are over $750 million, and part of those, over $200 million for pavement rehab, $50 million for Dalbar retrofit and diamond grinding, $94 million for bridge rehabilitation, and $71 million in shoulder and guardrail improvements. So those are certainly worthy investments. Wendy highlighted in her item about the reserve maintenance, and we have done a comprehensive look at that. Our project engineer, Christy Kircher, and I looked at bridges and pavements, and took a 15-year look at the number of projects. So looking at historical data and how many years we see between those ratings that we talked about, how long we're traditionally seeing those to drop a point. and certainly trying to catch everything that's in the fair condition before it goes to anything that would put it in a structurally deficient category. So in that exercise, I identified 55 bridges that we think, around that number over the next 15 years that would need to be rehabilitated. I do need to say that 20 of those are in the capital plan that is currently outlined. So, we're staying ahead on those, and that equates to about $230 million in today's dollars. Pavements, about 200 miles of pavement need to be addressed over the next 15 years at a cost of about $300 million. So, and these projects would be in addition to anything on the access program. So we calculated the reinvestment needs, and it was highlighted in Wendy's of just over $35 million for 2025, which is down, but it is because of that reinvestment levels and the amount that we're doing. So it's, I do need to point out that even though it goes down, it is based on the reinvestment into the facilities and the capital plan, based on our historical performance levels and not any kind of compromise to lower the capital reinvestment. So in September, moving on in September, our engineers checked about 24 special overloads, so still continuing to see a lot of large loads traveling the system, which further highlights the need to keep bridges in good shape. So as always, our capital plan project summary is in our monthly report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Great report. Thank you, Jimmy. The next report is the trustee report. Mrs. Singleton.
Good morning, Vice Chairman, members of the authority. As bond trustee to the authority, all monthly debt service transfers were made for the semi-annual payments due to the bondholders as required by the trust agreement. The preliminary annual budget for OTA Turnpike and Gilcrease Turnpike for the 2025 calendar year was approved earlier, and also a requirement of the trust agreement. To our knowledge, all other requirements set forth under the trust agreement have been satisfied. Questions on my report?
Great, thank you. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
The next report is the operating report. Mrs. Smith.
Thought I was going to be trapped. Vice Chairman Barry, members of the authority, Director E. Kelly, we certainly appreciate your consideration of the preliminary annual budget for the system as well as the preliminary annual budget for the Gilcrease Turnpike. We do need to stay in compliance with our trust indenture. Voila, we are. So because I say this every month, the Gilcrease transactions continue to climb. It's now been open long enough to compare August over August, and as you know, it's in that 5-year ramp-up period, so we continue to see really large increases. So August over August has increased 41%. The daily transactions have increased the 41%, 27,798 per day in August of 2024, and it was about 19,780 last year. It's a commuter turnpike, and so Monday through Friday traffic is about 31,000 per day. We're really proud of that. And the weekends at about 20,006, and I mean, it was closer to in the 14,000 range probably last year. So even on the weekend, people are really discovering this awesome road. And we do continue to be in a strong financial position, as can be seen by the operations report for August that was prepared for the Comptroller Division, and as well as what the consulting engineer said today. The pavement conditions, the conditions of the bridges are all just another thing that the rating agencies look at, and that also contributes to our AA- and equivalent ratings that we continue to enjoy. So we're really excited about that. And again, collectively for the year, division managers have held the revenue fund operating expenses to 21.5% under the 2024 O&M and maintenance budget, and the year-to-date toll revenues are outpacing year-to-date through August last year by 7.9%. So I will take any questions.
Great report. Any questions? Thank you, Wendy.
Thanks.
The next report is the director's report. Director E. Kelly.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. A couple things I just want to highlight this month. One being, of course, we've heard it 4 different times now, but the budget, this preliminary budget that you've accepted today. Really want to thank Wendy and Jonna and the team and Jordan for putting that together. They did a great job. It is very involved at OTA how we go about putting together a budget. One of the things that I want to highlight that Wendy talked about is the Highway Patrol Cadet School. Since I have been at OTA, I'm gonna look back at Major Val for a second, make sure he's nodding, but since I've been at OTA since 2017, the Turnpike Authority, our board, has approved funding every year to do cadet schools. I think that's been in the neighborhood of $5 million annually. Last year, it was a little bit more than that as as expenses and costs have gone up. This year, I believe that number is coming in at about 8.4 million. Is that right, Jonna? 8.6? $8.6 million that we're putting in to Highway Patrol so that they can hire enough cadets to fill not only the ranks at the Turnpike Authority, but also the ranks across the state. So I just want to highlight that as a tremendous service that's provided to the state. So really proud to do that. And for those who've been to our office before, the Highway Patrol and their training center is right across the street. So we get to bear witness to the training that goes on with the Highway Patrol. It is serious and looks like a lot of fun sometimes, but also doesn't look like anything that I'm in any kind of shape to do anymore. So there was a time, maybe a long time ago. The Gilcrease budget, again, another project that we're just so proud of. Traffic being so high on it and the funding transfers that continue to occur. We are getting questions now by other state entities about other states about how that project was delivered. And Jordan and I continue to answer those questions both to other states about the challenges that came with that, delivering a project that took so many different colors of money, and the ability of at least the Turnpike Authority and the support of our board that went into delivering that project. So we've been answering some questions about that. I think that's becoming a larger and larger theme throughout the country as funding sources are typically short and leveraging resources becomes more and more important. And that's the best example of that is obviously the Gilcrease project.
That was the first one in the country that was done under those kind of parameters, right?
Nobody has been able to identify another project that's been done quite like the Gilcrease Expressway for lots of different reasons. Being funded, multiple different entities being involved, and then to build a project like that during a pretty horrible pandemic that affected the supply chain, still being able to deliver it on time, opening it to traffic, and it far exceeding the traffic projections has just been tremendous. So super proud of that, Gilcrease.
What's the thinking on completion, Joe?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, John.
I get asked, and I appreciate I appreciate two board members bringing up the completion today as part of the Access Oklahoma program, and it's still shown on our map, a completion of the northwest side of Tulsa. The original plans and the estimate that were completed, or the original conceptual plans that the city of Tulsa did, I think date back to 2007. We are still, with the entire access program, we wanted to get started on a good chunk of the Turner Turnpike, a good chunk of some of the new alignments on the south side, and we're still evaluating that project and whether or not it fits into the access program or maybe it has to stand alone. As I understand it, federal funds have been spent to purchase right-of-way for that project. So if it's federalized, it may make sense to be a part of the Gilcrease Trust. Those decisions haven't been made yet. We are still, looking to work with the city of Tulsa on it. In preliminary talks with Tulsa, they're excited. They don't currently have a plan that funds the construction of that project. So
Tulsa County also, right?
Tulsa County, Osage County, City of Tulsa, I think that captures most of the group that's involved in that, yeah.
And most of the businesses that will benefit from it.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. So exciting project, one that we're really looking forward to taking a really hard look at. Don't have anything definitive to tell you here today. Thought of that as soon as the question came up during Jeff's presentation and LaDan's presentations earlier. So we'll continue to work at that. And as soon as we know something, absolutely, we're going to bring it to the board. So
That was a very politically correct way of saying cool your jets and stop asking.
Who's taking notes here? Well, I'm off my kilter now, sir. I also wanted to highlight, if I would be able to move on to something else, slowly and cautiously. Let's talk about the right-of-way demand service contracts that Todd was able to come up and present today. You know, we are actively purchasing right-of-way associated with the Access Oklahoma plan. I think we've closed, and Todd can confirm, but I think we've closed on 14 parcels so far throughout the program. Some of those are on new alignments, some of those are on the Turner Turnpike and others. We're actively working to make offers and negotiate through that with several other parcels. As we move forward with plan completion, as we hit these 60% plan submittals, and after we accept those 60% plans, that allows us to draw a right-of-way line that we're able to then establish a legal description on, and then go do an appraisal and make an offer on some of these properties. So that process is ongoing. There will be updates to that in the coming months and as we begin making more progress, but just wanted to let you know about that. Every time that we bring an agenda item before the board that has something to do with property acquisition, we tend to get a lot of questions about that. And what I would point the public to is that we have set up a phone number to call and ask questions. It is 1-844-56-ACCESS, and we also have an email address that is info@accessoklahoma.com, where you can provide either contact information to be reached out to, or in particular information about your particular parcel, or questions that you may have that we may be able to address. Right now, the answer is going to be on a lot of questions that we'll be getting back to you as soon as we know something, but wanted to take the opportunity today to provide that to the public, so that they're able to get any questions that we can answer answered. As an update, since last month, obviously the Indian Nation Turnpike has gone cashless on several of its tolling locations. That happened on August 28th at State Highway 9 for the Eufaula exit, US 270 on the north side of McAllister, north and west side of McAllister, and then also at Antlers. We have one cash remaining plaza on the Indian Nation Turnpike that's just south of US 69 that intends to go cashless in early November. We'll have a date that we'll be providing probably here in just a couple of weeks when we get past maybe some of the unknown weather between now and then, get a few more construction milestones hit. So excited about that. Again, the last turnpike that has not gone cashless at all is I-44, the Will Rogers Turnpike. That still is intended to happen late in November, and is at least by the end of the year, to go cashless. This is all about safety. In our toll plazas where we have gone cashless, we've seen a tremendous drop in accidents. I saw a report that came from in the newspaper from Pennsylvania Turnpike, that where they've gone cashless, they've seen a 50% reduction in crashes in those areas. And I'm going to tell you, ours is going to be very similar to that. We've seen a tremendous safety increase, and as soon as we have some crash data related to that, we'll provide it. While we talk about safety every month and we encourage everyone to wear their seatbelt, I want to highlight something that seems to happen that I see anytime I drive on the turnpike or on the interstate or on any busy highway, and that is, it seems that there is that when folks have an emergency event on the highway, that they don't know exactly what to do. And I would encourage anybody that if you can't get to a safe exit to get off the highway for a flat tire, running out of gas, battery dies, whatever the case is, if you have to stop on the shoulder, get as far off the roadway as possible. We've had all too many times they show up as pedestrian crashes or pedestrian fatalities oftentimes, and it's somebody trying to change a flat on the side of the highway without having any lights ahead of them to slow traffic down or move people over. If you end up on the side of a turnpike, I would encourage you to call 911 and just let people know you're there. If there's a trooper in the area, I know that our highway patrol will try to get there and provide some kind of cover, even help change the flat. We see that all the time. So if somebody ends up on the shoulder of a highway, that doesn't just go for turnpikes, that's for state highways, interstates, US highways, you name it. Try to get to a safest place. People follow all too close, and while the vehicle in front may get over enough, the person behind you may swerve a little across that white line, and it all too often at highway speeds ends in a horrific fatality. So would encourage anybody that has an emergency to get as far off the shoulder as they can, far away from the travel lanes, and if you need assistance, please call for that. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'd answer any questions that you might have or the board might have.
Does anybody have any questions? Great report, thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes all of our reports. So the next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, November 7th, 2024 at 10 o'clock a.m. Do we have a motion for adjournment?
Move for adjournment.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
Thank you, Mr. Cohn. And we are adjourned. Oh,
Got to vote.
there we go. It popped up. Please vote electronically. I apologize. Voting has ended and we are adjourned.